All right, let's talk about querying generic relationships. So earlier in the course, we created the tags app with two models. We have tag and tagged item. Now, if you remember, we decided to use the content type framework to decouple this app from the store app. So this app knows absolutely nothing about the store app. It doesn't know we have a model called product. So with this decoupling, we can reuse this app in any kind of project. Tomorrow, we can use it to tag articles, blog posts, videos, and so on. But now let's see how we can find the tags for a given product. So let's go to our database and look at this table, Django content type. In this table, we can see all the models we have in our application. So in the admin app, we have a model called log entry. We didn't create this. This is built into the admin app that comes with every Django project. Similarly, in the auth app, we have three models, group, permission, and user. In the likes app, we have a model called liked item. And in the store app, we have all these models that we have defined so far. Okay? So this is the content type table. Now let's look at the tagged item table in the tags app. So here we have a few columns, object ID, content type ID, and tag ID. So to find the tags for a given product, first we have to find the content type ID of the product model. So in this table, currently in my database, we have the product model and the content type ID for this model is 11. So once we find this, then we can go to this table and write a query to filter all records where content type ID equals 11 and object ID equals the ID of the product whose tags we want to find out. That is the big picture. Now let's implement this in code. So back to our playground, first we have to import a few classes. From Django.contrib.contenttypes.models, we're going to import the content type model. This is the model that represents the content type table that you just saw. Then from store.models, we're going to import the product class. And finally, from the tags.models module, we're going to import the tagged item class. Now, first we need to find the content type ID for the product model. So here we say content type dot objects. So because content type is a model, it has the objects attribute just like all the models we have created so far. Now here we have a method called getForModel. This is a special method that is only available in this manager. Remember, I told you that the objects attribute returns a manager object, which is a gateway to the database. So content type manager has a special method called getForModel. So we call this method and give it our product class. Now we get a content type instance. Now more accurately, this object represents this row in our content type table. So this is how we can find the content type ID for the product model. Now you might be wondering why we're not just using the number 11, because we cannot rely on these numbers. In your database, in your development database, the content type ID for product might be 11, but in your production database, it might be something else. That's why first we have to find the content type ID for the product model. Now that we have this, we can use it to filter tagged items. So we say tagged item.objects.filter. We're going to give it two filters. First is content type, which we set to our content type object. And then we set object ID to the ID of the product whose tags we want to query. Let's say product number 1. This should be calculated dynamically. For example, depending on the product that the user is looking at, we're going to get the product ID from the URL and pass it here. But for now, let's not worry about that part. So this will return a bunch of tagged item objects. Now back to our database, look at our tagged item table. In this table, we have a field called tag ID, which is a foreign key to the tag table. So the actual tag is not stored here, it's stored in this other table. So we need to preload this field, otherwise we'll end up with a lot of extra queries to the database. So back to our code. Here we're going to call select related to preload the tag field. Now let me show you a better way to format this code. It's getting a little bit ugly. So we can put this on a new line. Now we get an error because Python interpreter doesn't know that this line is the continuation of the first line. To solve this problem, we add a backslash here, and now the error is gone. So I would like to indent this line. And then one more time, we put filter on a new line and add a backslash here. And then format our code like this. I think this is nicer, especially when we're building a complex query by chaining a bunch of method calls here. So this returns a query set. Let's get it. And now we can add a new key value pair in our context object. So we can call that result, or we can call it tags, and set it to list of our query set, list of query set. Now let's run our query and see what happens. So refresh. Good, no errors. So we have two queries. The first query is for finding the content type ID for our product model. And the second query is for reading the tags for a given product. Like currently, we don't have any data in these tables, but if you're curious, you can just populate these tables and render the tags on the page. So this is how we can get the tags for a given product. Now in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to encapsulate this logic inside a custom manager so our code is cleaner and easier to work with.